savings and investment. A story to establish the relationship between savings and investment in an economy. A story of the simplest possible economy. Before we get into that, let us define some terms. Consumption is the utilization of resources to satisfy current wants. So consumption goods are those that get used up in the current period, like your lunch or the data service on your phone. You might even consider a pair of sneakers as a consumption good because it doesn't really last that long. Savings is current production not consumed. Investment is the complement to consumption. Investment is the utilization of resources to satisfy future consumption. This is usually done by expanding productive capacity. So, building a warehousing space or factory space or office space is there to produce for future consumption. That's investment. The acquisition and installation of machinery is to produce for future consumption. That is also investment. But technically, if resources to satisfy future consumption is the definition, then technically anything that you can put down and save for the next period is going to be classified as investment. That is to say, an addition to your inventories. So if you buy canned food that you store for next year's hurricane season, then that represents resources that is to satisfy future consumption. So additions to your inventories of what would otherwise seem like a consumption good also squeaks in on a technicality into the definition of investment. Having said that, we are going to focus mostly on additions to productive capacity. That is fixed capital formation when we talk about investment. So to explore the relationship between savings and investment in an economy, we're going to start off with the simplest kind of economy that we can come up with. And to do that, we need a small island. No, not that kind of small island. More like a deserted island. Okay, that's better. And on this island, we have a fisherman who has been blown off course and ends up stranded on this deserted island by himself. So this simplest of economies has one economic actor. He fends for himself by going out into the water, wading into the water, and catching fish for each of his meals. He catches one for breakfast, catches one for lunch, and another for dinner. So our simple economy has one good: fish. The output of this economy, the daily output, is 3 units. The 3 fish that are caught. This economy has no savings. He produces 3 units every day, and he consumes 3 units every day. But suppose on one particular day, he contemplates how useful it would be to have a net. He notices that some of the trees on the island have fine vines that he could weave into a kind of a basket net and attach it to a slim branch and make himself a basket net that he can use to make catching fish easier. His problem, of course, is that he's already using up most of his daily time in providing sustenance for himself, in catching his 3 meals for the day. So the only way he's going to be able to produce this net, this investment good, is if he foregoes one of his meals. If he spends the time that he would have spent catching a third fish, making his net instead. Were he to go and make this net, then our economy would now consist of consumption and both investment and saving. We have saving because on the day that he makes the net, he would produce 3 goods, but he would consume only 2. And that's the definition of saving. And the net is productive resources devoted to future consumption. It's productive capacity for catching fish in the future. So it's also investment. What you want to note here is that because this economy has only one economic actor, then saving and investing are the identical act. With only one economic actor, there can be no investment without saving, and there can be no saving without investment. It's the single act that fits the definition of both. But to complicate our simple economy a little further, before he sets off to catch his first fish on the morning of the same day that he's contemplating investing in a net, he goes for his morning walk a little further than he usually does and goes to a side of the island that he has not been to before. And there he discovers that he's not actually alone on the island, that there is a fisherwoman who is also stranded on the island, but on this other side. And she too has been sustaining herself by taking advantage of a huge mango tree on her side of the island. She picks 1 mango for breakfast, 1 for lunch, and 1 for dinner. So this economy actually has the potential to produce 6 goods, 6 units per day. So he's thinking about, boy, he has to starve himself of a meal in order to make this net. And he discusses his problem with his newly discovered island mate, fellow citizen. And she says, well, I have a solution. I'm going to pick my 3 mangoes today, and I've been thinking of going on a diet. So I will lend you 1 of my mangoes, and you will therefore be able to have your 3 meals and still have time to produce a net. So how this works is she picks 3 mangoes, gives him 1. So on this day, he can both invest in his net and he can have 3 meals. This economy now has consumption of 5 units. It has investment of 1 unit, and it has savings. We have now separated the act of investment and the act of savings, because it is the man who's doing the investing and the woman who's doing the saving. Even though, because we now have 2 actors, 2 economic agents, investment and saving doesn't have to take place within the same unit, within the same person. They still have to be equal. The economy cannot invest without saving. He's investing, she's saving, but the 2 have to be the same. The next complication, having established that in an economy, savings must be equal to investment. The next complication is to change our story slightly and to say that having discovered this other person also stranded, let us say she's not on the same island. She's on an island that is adjacent to the island that the fisherman is on, but close enough that they can have a conversation, and they have the same conversation. And they have the same exchange. That she lends him a mango, and they agree that he will owe her one unit of output. This changes our interpretation of what is going on in the economy. The mango for the fisherman is now an import. He has imported the mango from a neighboring economy. And on the basis of the import of a mango, he can still invest without saving because he's been able to import goods and not pay for it. That's critical. So in the first economy, we have investment without savings because the savings has come from a different economy. The savings has taken place by foreigners. And the foreigner has made her savings available to the fisherman's economy by sending over 1 unit of product without it being paid for, by accumulating a debt. So our conclusion from this is that investment can only be accommodated if there is savings. The savings can be in the domestic economy, or it can be savings by foreigners, which would be manifest as the first economy importing without exporting something to pay for it. By the excess of imports over exports, which is the evidence that foreigners are saving and making those savings available to your economy. So investment in an economy must be equal to savings if we recognize that savings can be either domestic savings or foreign savings. Incidentally, when we say that investment must be equal to savings, we are talking about actual investment and actual savings. In the same way that in a market, actual purchases have to be equal to actual sales. That doesn't mean the desire, the demand for a good has to be equal to the supply of a good, because those are just desires. So similarly, desired investment doesn't necessarily have to be equal to desired savings, but actual investment has to be equal to actual savings. And that's our takeaway.